Hello everybody, and welcome to weekly upload update number 7. This of course is Obi, aka Thr33X, and we're going to jump right into it this time because I've got a lot of new content to show you boys and girls. Mostly boys, because 92% of my subs are male. But anyway, I've decided I'm going to actually split this video up because there are so many new cores I've completed. I don't want this to run too long. So we're going to kick things off here with, of course, the amazing dragon Aki-san, one half of the team known as the Shoguns. This is pretty much a near identical look to his attire from last year's game. And it's the first time that I've actually made a consistent attire for him from one year to the next. Reason being, they usually take something out of the create mode that I had used in the previous game that forces me to have to completely redesign him. It's become an actual trait of his character now to be an ever-changing chameleon kind of guy, always changing his look. But this time around, he's pretty consistent. The one thing that did change the most, however, is his mask. Let's zoom in again to it here. Aki's never had a regular mask as a result of my constant attire changes, and that's something I'll keep doing for him. This version, however, has him wearing a color-altered version of the mask of the Persian immortals from the Frank Miller movie and comic 300. I was never sure if it was based on an actual group, but that doesn't matter at this point, does it? Truth be told, the mask was originally one I was going to use for Riot, but then I decided to go with the Bane mask for him, and Aki inherited this one. As we take a look at his second attire, the white variation, you see the mask is still Sin Cara-esque, except it's half blocked off. What's blocking it off in actuality is a graphic of the first version of Ichigo Kurosaki's hollow mask from the anime/manga Bleach. I was originally going to use it for Aki, and then changed it to the immortal mask for his primary attire, but I kept it on his secondary attire. And it gives an accidental effect that I like because the mask from a distance looks like it's only got one eye on it, which is pretty cool actually. I might change the color of the mask at some point or do a different color scheme for alternate attires. Maybe something green, kind of reminiscent to his Dragon Boy persona, which of course is who he was before he evolved into what he is now. But that's something for the future. A little bit of background information for you new people. Aki is one of the first students to come out of the Togo Dojo, ran by Yoshi Togo, who you'll see in a bit. The whole dojo system is something I've decided to build on within my universe, and the Togo Dojo represents the Japanese Puro style. Obviously, this implies that Aki isn't the only one who's an alumni of this dojo. You will see others in due time. And let's take a closer look at some of the design elements first for this attire. Whole bunch of dragon logos, obviously. The black dragon with the reddish trim on it is actually something that I had taken off of another card that I had downloaded from one of the guys on my friends list. The card's name is Chris Onyx. Pretty good looking guy too. Really, really high rated though. He's like got a 108 overall rating. That's kind of OP. But yeah, it looked good. And it was a lot better than the other dragon logo that I had used for his white attire in last year's game. So I decided I wanted to go with that instead. and then back to the primary attire. Like I said, pretty consistent to last year's. Most of the same logo work from last year is on the attire number 1, with the exception of the pants, where I used the Onyx dragons there. And the red dragon on his sash is actually what I used for his alternate white attire last year. And yeah, we changed things up. So there's some subtle differences between last year's to this year's, but overall pretty consistently made. And yeah, I might actually make a different look for him this year at some point, but for right now he looks good, and I'm gonna stick with this look for at least a couple more months and see what happens to him. Next is the other half of the Shoguns, Captain Canada, Drake Manning. Take a close look at the tights there. Like Aki-san, his look is generally the same as it was last year, with a slight bit of variation only. The new elements are the logos on his knee pads, using more of the Photoshop styles I've been gushing over these last couple of weeks that you've seen on many other cause of mine. And of course his face, which I've also said previously I'm using real face photos and mapping them on as opposed to using the default method I did last year, due to the fact that the photo importing and face morphing is 100 times better in this year's game. His look is pretty cut and dry. It's that new school kind of ring gear you see a lot of other cars have, with kick pads, different arm gear, and so on. But the red hand tape actually has some significance to it because of one of his finishing moves. I like the way that one of the discus clotheslines looked so much. I actually forgot which number it was, but I will show it at some point, and that will be superimposed on the side there. I liked it so much because it folds the victim over after it hits, that I decided to upgrade it from a strong strike in his arsenal to an alternate finisher, replacing it with the replacing it from the crossface submission, and named it the Red Hand of Ulster to signify that Mr. Manning has some Irish heritage. I actually tracked it back, and Manning does go back to Ireland. The last name does, so there's some genealogy going on there. Anyway, Ulster is a province in Ireland, and the red hand is one of its heraldry symbols. But what made me go with the name is the myth behind its symbolism. According to legend, the kingdom of Ulster had at one time no rightful heirs. And because of this, it was agreed that a boat race should take place, and, quote, "Whosoever's hand is the first to touch the shore of Ireland, so shall he be made king." One potential king so desired the kingship that upon seeing that he was losing the race, he cut off his own hand and threw it to the shore, thus winning the kingship. The hand is red, obviously, to represent the fact that it would have been covered in blood. That's pretty extreme symbolism there, actually. Very powerful, which is why it's the name to the move. And let's take a look at his secondary attire. And like I said, not a whole lot of variation. Just use the maple leaf skull logo as the centerpiece for the tights. This one, and put some white primitive logos in the center to kind of sort of make it look as close looking to an actual Canadian flag as possible, but still has its little touches to it. Everything else is pretty much the same. I replaced the Captain Canada text with the other skull logo with the wings on the knee pads, and yeah, it's just pretty much a swap of graphic elements and a change to some of the looks on the attire itself. But I didn't want to make it a color swap because I wanted to keep it kind of consistent with the red and white to match the colors of the Canadian flag. And yeah, that's a pretty basic look, and for a character that I'm really high on, I'm definitely going to be doing bigger things with him at some point. But right now, he will be in the midst of a storyline with Aki-san and a couple of other people in the tag team division, and from there, big things will be on the horizon for Drake Manning at some point in the future. And next we have Mexican Muscle, Apollo Vega. He's kind of a free agent right now. We'll get to that in a second. But he was originally modeled off of a wrestler called Gran Apollo, who competed in TNA way before they even had a TV deal, back in the videotape days. Of course, as is the case with other characters I base off of real wrestlers, I change and evolve them or add new ticks about them. And in his case, he's also got some nuances shared with some other Hispanic big men who have competed or currently compete in the business. Namely, another former TNA wrestler who went by the name Hernandez. That's a little homage to him there with the Superman logo superimposed over the Mexican flag because his nickname was Supermex. And Tejano, who actually competes currently in TNA and also appears on Lucha Underground on the El Rey Network. You can definitely see some influence to Tejano in Mr. Vega's current entrance attire with the cowboy vest and cowboy hat, going back to his roots, so to speak, you know, and the whole pride in country and such like that. Born in Mexico, raised a great deal in Mexico, but also down in good old Texas. So yeah, he's kind of embraced more of his own individuality, which will go into the fact that he's a free agent, of course. One of the XWA Live videos that I had posted last year actually had him helping Drake Manning win a match against Tane Tua, which in effect was him defecting from that whole group of Katana / World's Finest, and pretty much turning him into a babyface. So I actually have plans to what I'm going to be doing with him next. Obviously, I cannot tell you any of these plans at this point because those would be story spoilers for what it is that I'm going to be doing for the Takedown show, which, by the way, is ready to go as we speak and will be posted sometime after I have posted this weekly upload update. I want to get this out of the way first and then get on to making videos using these guys. I've still got some work to do as far as movesets and finalizing some other cores. I still have about 24 left to make, to be honest with you. 12 male, 12 female. That will completely constitute the XWA's roster. But getting back to Mr. Vega here, just as is the case with Drake Manning, not a whole lot of differentiation with the alternate attire, just basically a reconfiguration of logos and a slight color swapping, and then he's got the kind of black poncho type deal going on with the entrance gear to his alternate attire, and once again the same Photoshop style being used on his name and nickname. And for those of you who are inquisitive enough to notice the fact that the typeface is identical, you can probably guess what it is that plan is that I have for Mr. Vega, but I'm not giving any specifics. You just have to watch and see how it goes down. But yeah, what you might be thinking is probably what is going to happen eventually, and we'll just leave it at that. And sticking on the trend of big men, because I certainly do make a whole lot of big men, this one here is, of course, Double XL, aka Xander Xavier Rooker, and he's got a pretty special place amongst my call roster or collection, whatever it is that you want to call it. You can probably tell from the centerpiece on his tights that he was loosely based around Bobby Lashley. I say loosely because I had actually first made this character for a friend of mine's many years before Bobby Lashley ever even appeared in WWE. So you can't really call him a Lashley clone so much as Lashley is a clone of him. Obviously, I have ended up taking a couple of little touches and nuances from Bobby Lashley and absorbed it into the Double XL character, like the headband, for example. I like that headband. That's a nice touch there. Has a real kind of athletic, basketball-like feel to it. But other than that, well, obviously some moves they share, like the Dominator finisher and things of that nature. It's kind of the same like it was, I was saying, with Apollo Vega, where I start with one thing and I'll absorb different other nuances from other characters or other wrestlers and just kind of mash them up into one complete package. And that's pretty much the case with Double XL. What it is that I mean when I say that he has a special place is that if I, myself, were actually going to pursue a career in professional wrestling, my character would be this character right here. So in actuality, the writing and the storylines and the mannerisms, the way he talks and all that stuff that I do for Double XL would be exactly how it is that I would be interacting if I were a professional wrestler. Kinda sorta like how Vince McMahon's idea for the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, was what he would be if he had actually became a professional wrestler. That's actually where that character completely originated from. Vince came to DiBiase with the idea, and it was basically, what if Vince McMahon was a wrestler? He would be the $1 Million Man. Except obviously he couldn't be a wrestler because at that time it wasn't even completely announced. We didn't even know that he was the owner of the company at the time of the $1 Million Man's prime, because Vince McMahon was still just a commentator. It wasn't until the Attitude Era in the mid-90s that cat finally came out of the bag. But anyway, if I were a professional wrestler, my alias or what have you would be Xander Xavier Luther. And yeah, that's just the significance to the character there. Also is the fact that he is another product of the dojo system that I had been speaking of. Second generation graduates of the School of Hardcore, which of course was founded by Riot, and also features other graduates such as Christian Phoenix, Kevin Lassiter, John Payne, and the other prominent graduate of the second class of the School of Hardcore happens to also be Tyson Blackheart. So they have that kind of budding rivalry against each other as to who has the biggest impact amongst those two, because they're both big guys and they're actually two of the biggest guys to ever come out of that school in terms of size, and the directions that they've obviously taken are completely different from each other, but at some point they will have their having out to see who is the best of the best among them. And then of course his nickname, Black Hercules, just stuck, you know. That was one that a friend of mine's, a friend of ours, me and my brother, who has a character named Johnny Punch. I think I might actually want to do an alternate version of him at some point, or maybe my brother will, who knows. He came up with the nickname Black Hercules because, you know, he's a big, bald, black guy who's muscled up and such. So, yeah, it stuck. And, yeah, that's his nickname. It's not an actual nickname that he would go by.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's not going to be Black Hercules Xander Xavier Luther. No, but it's something good for the shirts. And it fits with that last year logo perfectly. The only gripe I have, as it is with everything that I do as far as big guys, is the fact that you can only have them have the same build because of the limitations of the body morphing. Yes, I'm bitching about the body morphing. Shoot. But other than that, good looks. And as we take a look at the alternate attire, it's black with white. Color swap on the logo, but most of it is still pretty much in the same place, same placements, logo on the headband and such like that. And take a look at the entrance shirt, because you can probably see a little bit of it from afar, but I'll give you a closer look there. Yeah, that's probably going to be a little bit controversial there, whether I give it the second attire and the second shirt, but it's Black Power because he's black and he's a powerful guy because he was one of the strongest guys in the XWA, but obviously it's possible to take that completely out of context and, you know, that was the intention all the way there with me deciding to go with that text on the black version of the shirt. It would be something that would definitely sell, I would think. It'd be kind of ironic too, especially considering the climate of things in the world today as far as race relations are concerned and so on and so forth. I just thought it'd be a nice little friendly rib there, just for laughs. And last but certainly not least is Yoshi Togo, the founder and head of the Togo Dojo, the president and CEO of View Japan Pro Wrestling. And if you saw the weekly update last week, you will see that there's obvious similarity between some of his logo work and the logos seen on the actual View Japan wrestling arena, which was, of course, completely intentional. You know, I said that's what I was going to do in last week's video, and now you are seeing the end results of that work. You got kind of a sneak preview of him if you watched the takedown entrance or opening video, which is uploaded at this present moment. But again, closer look now, you can see for yourself exactly how it is that the tire played out. As is usually the case, I've been doing the many years that I have made him. He's got the blue and white as the primary, which is kind of sort of a play on one of the wrestlers that he is mainly based off of, that being Yuji Nagata, who always wore blue. And at one point Yoshi was wearing like black and gold, but then I saw more of Nagata's matches and decided, hey, you know what, maybe I will model Yoshi's style off of him, because I like his look, I like his moves, and yeah, you know, at that point in time, Yuji was one of the old dogs in New Japan Pro Wrestling, you know, one of the respected veterans, and that's the kind of character that Togo is. He is a veteran. Obviously, he not only owns New Japan, but he still actively competes there as well as in the States for the XWA, and things just pretty much worked out from there. A little bit of a cue for you guys on face, because I had a hard time finding a consistent face for him. I didn't want to use Nagata's face, and a lot of times I kind of sort of, back in the old days before face mapping was a thing, I kind of modeled his face off of a younger version of Sonny Chiba, with the goatee still though, like he has now, kind of like mixing things up. But when I decided I wanted to go with actual faces for my characters, I pretty much finalized on a Japanese actor that goes by the name of Kato Masaya, who is pretty big over in Japan. The first time I saw his work was actually a martial arts film by the name of Fighter in the Wind, which is a very good movie if you have not seen it. If you want to see a martial arts film that is actually about martial arts and has the closest thing to real fights as possible, you know, no cable work or special effects or anything like that, it's basically, it's as much of a history story piece as it is a martial arts film. But I'm not going to go into too much detail, because like I said, I don't want these videos to run long. But Google it, check it out, and look at that movie. Look at this guy's work. It's amazing stuff. But the character that he played in the movie, whose name is also Kato, I saw him and I saw how he looked, you know, that 1930s style dress, like, because it took place after World War II, so it was in that era. And just looking at his swagger and such like that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to absorb that into Yoshi Togo, some way or some form. He's going to be this sophisticated gentleman warrior who can kick people's ass, and then when he's not doing it, he looks like $1 million. And yeah, that's what I went with, and I went further from there this year by just basically using Mr. Messiah's face and kind of changing a couple of things a little bit to be Yoshi Togo's official appearance for the current generation and onward. Yeah. I was kind of thinking maybe I might want to use some wrinkles to kind of age him a little bit, but then I kind of said, you know what, he looks older enough right here as it is. You know, he's got one of those looks to where he's younger than he looks, but he's still an old dog, and obviously He's a long-time rival of Victory Musashi, so they go back, way back, and yeah, we'll just leave it at that. And then you see the alternate attire, which is the atypical Japanese colors of white with red. For some strange reason, I keep changing the color of the stripe on the left side to red, but it always reverts back to white, so I said, screw it, we'll just keep it white, whatever. But yeah, everything else is pretty much the same. It's just basically a color swap of the blue attire. Nothing too fancy right there. Let's take a look at the entrance gear, which of course is the walkout jacket, which is what you saw in the opening video for XWA Takedown. Pretty much, I went with a jacket because I didn't want to use a robe. Going back to Mr. Nagata, he rarely used robes. Entrance gear is a big thing over in Japan, but Nagata would usually come out in like a varsity jacket or a warm-up jacket or a t-shirt of some kind that had like a dojo name on it or something like that. He had a really more athletic kind of feel to him, more than the showmanship and pageantry that you will usually see in Japanese wrestling, which was one of the things that really caught on to me for him, and one of the things that I decided I wanted to kind of absorb into the Yoshi Togo character itself. So, really patriotic kind of athletic look to it there. Pretty basic, but sometimes the basic stuff is the best stuff, and that is certainly the case with Mr. Togo. He is one of the best all-around characters that I make. As a matter of fact, if Riot is the #1 guy in my universe, then Yoshi Togo would be a solid #2 at this point, in the fact that he is, you know, OG and OP and just as capable of whipping anyone's ass now as he was back in the day, and not somebody to be trifled with. That's just, you know, I have that distinction. I call them boss level characters, and Togo is definitely one of those. One that I am going to probably be using a little bit more than I have in previous years, mainly because of a style that I'm going to be doing with the shows that will allow me to be able to add more matches or just make more matches in general. So yeah, you'll see a little bit more of him in the not so distant future. And your weekly uploads for this week are the exact 5 gentlemen that I've showed you in this video. Drake Manning and Yoshi Togo have already been uploaded, and I have just added Apollo Vega, Aki-san, and Double XL. So they are all now currently available for download on Community Creations, PlayStation 4. Search tags, as always, are 3XCAW, that's the number 3 and the letters XCAW or XWA. And also, I would like to point out, if you will turn your attention to the top right of the screen, I am now 513 downloads away from reaching the next rank, which is gold, which will allow me 5 more call slots to be able to upload with. So that will be 5 more calls of mine available for you to download. Chances are that milestone is probably going to be reached over the course of the next week. So by the time the next weekly update rolls around, I'll have 15 call slots to work with, and I'll probably devote these specifically for re-uploads of any calls that you might have missed over these last weeks. Like I said, I still have 24 more cars left to make to completely fill out the XWA roster. That, however, is not going to slow down the production of my shows. In actuality, the season premiere of Takedown was actually uploaded to YouTube before this video. It's already been ready, but I'm releasing these videos first, and then I will release the season premiere for you guys later on, probably sometime over the course of this weekend. As I said at the beginning, I've actually decided to split this weekly upload update in half because there's a lot of stuff that I managed to finish. So you have the veterans and the guys who some of you all are familiar with in this video. And then in the next video coming up, I guess we can call it version 7.2, you'll see a lot of brand new cars and also cars that I have not made in a very, very, very long time. Two of which I've actually pulled from 2 console generations ago. The last time I actually made them was in SmackDown vs. Raw 2011. So you can see exactly how far it is I'm digging down in the crates to fill up my roster. It's just interesting to see how they would look like in the current generation and things that I could do with them that I couldn't do back then because the technology wasn't there. So stay tuned for that. Of course, if you are subscribed to my channel, then you will eventually get to see the second part to this week's upload. If you're not, then make sure you hit that big red button below this video window. And also like this video if you enjoy these kind of design synopsises. If you like these videos, if you enjoy my commentary over my creative process, then be sure to hit that notification of the upward thumb there. It means a lot. And yeah, we're just going to keep it going from here. Stay tuned for weekly upload update 7.2 in the very, very near future, followed by the 2017 season premiere of XWA Takedown. That's going to do it for now. Until then, this is Obi, aka 3X, signing off.